A Man in Blue. Under the French horns of a November afternoon, a man in blue is raking leaves with a wide wooden rake whose teeth are pegs, or rather dowels. Next door, boys play soccer. You got to start over, sort of. A round attic window in a radiant gray house waits like a kettle drum. You got to start. The Brahmsian day lapses from waltz to march. The grass, rough cropped as Bruno Walter's hair, is stretched, strewn, and humped beneath a sycamore wide and high as an idea of heaven, in which Brahms turns his face like a bearded thumb and says, "There is something I must tell you," to Bruno Walter. In the first movement of my second, think of it as a family planning where to go next summer in terms of other summers. A material ecstasy subdued, recollective. Bruno Walter, in a funny jacket with a turned-up collar, says, "Let me sing it for you." He waves his hands, and through the vocalese-shaped spaces of naked elms he draws a copper beach, ignited with a few late leaves. He bluely glazes a rhododendron, a sea of leaves against gold grass. There is a snapping from the bright work of parked and rolling cars. There almost has to be a heaven, so there could be a place for Bruno Walter who never needed the cry of a baton. Immortality in a small, dusty, rather gritty, somewhat scratchy Magnavox from which a forte drops like a used Brillo pad. Frayed. But it's hard to think of the sky as a thick glass floor with thick-soled Viennese boots tromping about on it. It's a whole lot harder thinking of Brahms in something soft, white, and flowing. Life, he cries, here in the last movement, is something more than beer and Skittles. And the something more is a whole lot better than beer and Skittles, says Bruno Walter, darkly, under the sod. I don't suppose it seems so dark to a root. Who are these men in evening coats? What are these thumps? Where is Brahms and Bruno Walter? Ensconced in resonant, plump easy chairs, covered with scuffed brown leather, in a pungent autumn that blends leaf smoke, sycamore, tobacco, other, their nobility wound in a finale like this calico cat asleep, curled up in a bread basket, on a sideboard where the sun falls. Lay of the Land. 1. Monday there was a new sound in the morning chorus, water splashing into massive wine goblets. Another sound on Tuesday, the toneless friction of an apprentice finger riding a massive brim. Wednesday the friction began to squeak and moan, the braking of a train pulling into an empty depot. Thursday, glass sang, the devil's true violin. 2. Sparrows came for breakfast, doves for brunch. The air, outside and in, was looser yesterday. The reason is a secret I will tell you when I trust you. I will whisper it with my scent. I do not covet your wife or your ass. Your house is another story. The penthouse grabbing day's first light. A trailer with its rummage sale yard, its whirligigs and dogs. The RV that flits like a butterfly from park to park. The sparrow's downy body, the pigeon's orange eye. I see, and I must inhabit. 3. Habitat envy I inherited from my mom. Envy of the loquacious from my dad. My envy of the ground springs from my male barrenness. I envy my discontent's elusiveness. It escapes me every time. I envy Baudelaire his face that matches his poems so well. He was a walking advertisement for his sickly FTD. I envy trees that cast dappled shade. My shadow is so solid, so unquivering. My envy of men with smooth legs was inspired by a tennis player at my high school and reinforced by a man I saw in the laundromat with vinyl thighs and a pouch for a crotch. He looked out the window and clapped his knees like a wind-up monkey's cymbals. 4. A desert city. The temples, the mansions, the hovels, the baths, the armory, the confident wall, the markets, the prison. These together were my many-headed god. Buying, selling, thieving, arresting, praying, fucking, giving birth to life and death, these were my sins, for in this wicked city every thought was stained. The sinning moved on, the ruins remain. 5. Now that I've settled into the stillness of reading, they're back. The pigeon with his stabbing head, the sparrows so light they can't stay down. They're back, but they don't come close. I am not as gentle as Francis. I wouldn't preach to them if I could. Less gullible than their grandsires, they wouldn't listen if I did. 6. I avert my eyes from a woman sunbathing in view of 100 windows. Even on this safe and gorgeous day, it makes me think of Kitty Genovese. Maybe I would overcome my modesty if I thought my skin would darken with poems. A husky fertilizes the ground, his eyes blaze yellow, dandelions bloom clear, blue, sexy. I'm trying to fly off, but I'm not the leaf a weakling twig holds. I'm a flag whose pole is a domineering matriarch. 7. The air is liberating, like mentholated sinus spray. I peel skin gloves from my hands and find another pair beneath. I think, this is the last one. If I just get it off, my hands will be free.
If I could capture every dream that I ever dreamed, retell every book that I ever read, if I could remember every foolish thing you've said, it wouldn't keep me awake. I know which choice I'd make. If I could have the man at the disco with his suede and Gucci belt, or the boy from San Francisco with his hat of handmade felt, or you in your ragged t-shirt with holes in your socks, I know who I'd forsake, I know what choice I'd make. Shall I go back to days changeful as the skies? Shall I keep the days steady as your eyes? If I could keep an orchid for a bird of paradise, if I could keep an heirloom rose or a hearty asphodel, if I could keep the first corsage I pinned to your lapel, I know which flower to take, I know which choice I'd make.